Hello there friends, it's Julie Norman and today is November 14th, 2021, which means it is National Diabetes Day. And that means that I'm going to talk to you about diabetes because that's one of the chronic illnesses that I have. Yay! So, actually the whole month is Diabetes Awareness Month, but this is the day that they earmark for it. So anyways, as you might know if you've been with me a while, I have type 1, well actually it's called LADA diabetes, which is a rare form of diabetes. So did you know that there are actually several forms of diabetes, not just 1 and 2? There's also like gestational and MODY and all kinds of other ones as well. And even though there are so many kinds, we really only hear about 1 and 2. I had never heard of type 1.5 or LADA, they're called either, until I was diagnosed with it. There is a lot of information out on the internet about it, but what isn't as prevalent are personal stories. So I want to tell you how I was diagnosed and how it has been affecting my life. Just a little bit of an overview. This is LADA, L-A-D-A, which stands for latent autoimmune diabetes in adults. And it can also be called 1.5. And it is like type 1, except it occurs in adults. And it's slower forming, and usually you get it after age 30. And it is often misdiagnosed as type 2, which is what I had. So basically type 1 is basically because your pancreas is failing. It's like an organ failure. And type 2 is it's brought on by maybe a family predisposition, exercise, or your food choices. However, just because you eat candy does not mean you're going to be diabetic. It's a function of the pancreas. Type 1 is also an autoimmune disease, and I'll get into that a little bit more about the autoimmune. And it's basically where your body is killing your pancreas off because it thinks it's a bad thing, and so it's attacking it and trying to kill it, and it is. And then you don't have insulin. It's about 6 to 10% of adults with diabetes have LADA. So it's not a high amount. We are a small minority group, and that is another reason why I want to raise awareness of this, of my experience, because I want other people to hear the story as well and to not feel alone, as I kind of did when I was diagnosed. I was like, what in the world is this? And I have always been a little heavier. My mom made comments when I was younger that we didn't think you'd be this heavy. I was a size 12 or 14 when I was a teenager. Now I'm like, I wish I was that size now. But so I looked like I could be a type 2. But even when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I remember having times where I would get shaky and when I needed to eat, and I would just, we never went to the doctor unless we were dying, and then we probably didn't go to the doctor because we were going to die, so what's the use of spending the money? So we did not. I've made up time for that now. I could have had something going on. I could have had type 1 way back when, not like total pancreas stop, but I could have had this way back when I was younger. Because I did have quite a few times where I would, feel faint and shaky, and I need to eat. I knew I needed to eat. We called it low blood sugar level, but I was never tested. We never went in and have it checked. And even when I was young married, I remember there was one night where I was just cold and shaky the whole night, and it was like I was like telling my husband, look how cold I am. It's like, that's really cold, and it's because I didn't eat anything. But there were times when I look back at now, that I think I was going into the low blood sugar range, lows and low blood glucose, and there was times where I just wasn't myself, and I all of a sudden just had probably, what do you call it? Hypoglycemia. That's what it is. So I probably had episodes of those, and I just thought I was just moody, because we didn't know any better in our marriage, and it didn't really help my marriage. And all of a sudden I would just be like rage, almost like I couldn't control myself, and I would just kind of go into this fit, and I'd get shaky, and I couldn't breathe sometimes, and couldn't focus, and I would just, and now looking back at it, that was hypoglycemic episodes. So I've been having that basically all my life. And I didn't know until diagnosis with LADA how it all was affecting my life. So when I was about mid-30s, I was told by my doctor that I was pre-diabetic because she was watching my numbers. This is when we were married, we were going to the doctor. So she told me how to eat and to exercise more and to lose some weight. And so I did lose some weight. I took up running. I ran a 5K, and I took up keto and low carb, which actually keto did really good for me. I think I lost a lot of weight, but the thing with keto is that once I was off it, it all came back. I gained it all back. So anyways, I did all of those things, and I tried to make those lifestyle changes, and what happened? Nothing really changed. My numbers kept creeping up and up. So eventually she just said, you have type 2 diabetes, and it's going to be, I just have to diagnose you because of the numbers where you are. And basically I felt shame that I did not try enough. Maybe I could have tried harder. Maybe I should have done a marathon and not a 5K. Maybe I could have, stuck to that keto a little longer and not had those cookies that one night, not had that ice cream, and I would have been okay, And so there was a sense of shame that I had failed. And I was ashamed of the diagnosis. I didn't tell anyone, only my husband knew. I didn't tell family because I was ashamed of it, of feeling like I failed. And I am overweight, and I still am. And so I could just hear the judgments of people saying, oh, because my whole family is skinny. I could just feel them saying things behind my back. If she would only lose weight, blah, blah, then she would be okay. Look what she's doing to herself. She really let herself go. Those kinds of comments I've heard all my life growing up about other people. And so, yeah, I look like I failed. I look like I have no self-control. And I had a lot of shame. And I tried to cope, but because of that shame and the feeling like I didn't have a support group because I didn't want to tell anyone, I didn't take care of myself. I wouldn't hardly test. Even you're supposed to test with your finger sticks every few times a week, and I maybe did it once or twice a month. It doesn't really do any good at that point. And I wouldn't even, it was to the point where sometimes it was months and I wouldn't even remember what my numbers were supposed to be. And I just kind of gave up. And so I just couldn't cope with all that, the heaviness of the diagnosis. I know if you guys if you have had a diagnosis of something, but you feel that weight coming at you, like this thing here, this is coming at me, this is on me, and I can't do anything about it. I tried, or did I try? Did I bring it on myself? So there was a lot of that. I'm here to say that if you are diagnosed with type 2, and I would say to deal with it differently than I did, to kind of face it squarely and say, yeah, that might be what I'm diagnosed with, but it doesn't matter how I got here. It matters now what I do going forward, and find that support group. If it's not through your family, get a group. And by the way, this is all when I lived in Minnesota, and it was different because it's the state I grew up in, and I knew everybody in town too. So it was, if you went anywhere, everybody would know, kind of thing. So moving along, we moved to Montana about 5 years later, and it was at that point where I had to change doctors. And I actually had 3 doctor switches within 1 or 2 years because I kept leaving. There was a big hullabaloo going on. But in that interim, one of the doctors said, hey, would you like to go to the diabetic support or diabetic clinic we can refer you to? They have some resources to help you that we don't. And I'm like, okay, this is a fresh start. So yeah, I'll go. And so I did go, and the people were great. And I met with the lady. They were all supportive, and there was no shame. They were all like, let's help you to get better. Let's get your numbers. And I admitted that I hadn't done testing, or I didn't even know where my finger prick thing was, my Lancets and stuff, because in the matter of moving, it wasn't a priority for me. And I'm thinking now, I wonder what my blood sugars were when I was moving. That would have been interesting. So they were very good, and then I met with the dietitian, and they were wonderful. And then, actually 3 years later, I had a cancer diagnosis. So I had the surgery, everything's good, but in the process of getting the cancer recovery, where I was supposed to be doing better and being more active and feeling good, there was a few symptoms that I was having that didn't line up with recovery symptoms. So what happened was, in a nutshell, I was diagnosed with a few autoimmune diseases. And those are rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, and Raynaud's, and they're still watching for other markers from other ones. It takes years to get diagnosed and treated with autoimmune stuff. It's a crapshoot, basically. When I told my diabetic people, the doctors there, endocrinologists, the lady said, you know, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. And that was the first time I'd heard of that. And she said, let's test you just in case. She said, it probably isn't so, because once I started taking care of myself and taking the metformin, was finger pricking a few times a week, my numbers got better. And I was, you know, again, careful to not, eat too badly, even though it's hard, if you're gonna have ice cream sometimes. We did the test, and it came out that I was not type 2 diabetic. I was type 1 or 1.5 or LADA, or whatever you call it. The official diagnosis is LADA that I had, and not type 2. And I instantly felt relief. And for the first time, because now I knew why all that effort that I did to get in shape, to eat well, the reason why I failed wasn't because of me. It was because of my body. It wasn't because I didn't try hard enough, because I did try. It was because it was my body killing off my pancreas. So, yeah, I mean, yay, relief. Ooh. I mean, my body's killing it off. It's not me. I mean, imagine how weird it is to be relieved about that. And another thing was that at last, everything made sense. So I would encourage you, if you have been diagnosed with type 2 and you can't keep it controlled with your medication, with your lifestyle changes, to see if you can get the test. The test is for GAD, GAD antibodies. And, excuse me, that's my dog sighing over there. He's so cute. GAD antibodies. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 1,000. Having any of them tested means you have type 1 or LADA. So since that diagnosis, it has been so much better for me to get a handle on this, because I don't feel like I'm not the bad guy here. It is my immune system. My immune system is the one coming along here and saying, oh, look there's a pancreas. We think it's an enemy. We think we need to kill it off because it's going to kill us if we don't kill it. And that's what it's doing to my pancreas. I am in what they call the honeymoon stage, where there is still function of my pancreas. I am not to the point where it's totally gone yet, but that will come a day. So it's a little easier to manage right now, because I only need a background daily insulin, and then, and I have a Dexcom to help me to know my numbers. The Dexcom has been incredible for helping me to manage everything. So, oh no, I'm at 191. It's because I just ate lunch before this, but it'll go down. I mean, you are a little higher usually after you eat lunch. I did have a couple cookies. I found gluten-free Oreo cookies. That was dangerous find. All right, so anyways, so having this device has been such a game changer, but my endocrinologist had to fight for me to be able to get this, because I also have Raynaud's, which is where when my fingers and toes get cold, the circulation stops and they turn white. There's no circulation, there's no feeling, it just turns cold, there's no blood flow. And one thing you're supposed to do is not have trauma to the fingers. So if I am cold and stress can bring it on too. So if I am going into like hypoglycemia, all the blood is going to stop flowing to my fingers. So how am I going to do a finger stick? So that is why it's very important for me at this point to have this Dexcom, because usually they don't give this to you until you need mealtime insulin. But because my endocrinologist went to bat for me, I am so thankful for her. We were able to get this covered by insurance. However, I got a letter from my insurance saying, we're not going to cover you for next year, so we're going to have to start fighting them again. I don't know. It's like do they want us to manage this stuff, or do they not? I mean, I think it would be better in the long run to have the preventative care. Oh, that's a whole nother story. Yeah, so like I said, my treatment for now is daily background insulin, and basically that's all I need for now. I do take a lot of supplements and stuff like that, but a lot of it's related to my other autoimmune diseases. So there will be a time probably when my pancreas loses its function where I will need more insulin. And we even talked a little bit about that too. When I have sushi, it goes, woo! It goes through the roof a little bit. So I either have to not have sushi or add an extra little bit of background insulin, but I don't need the mealtime yet. Living with LADA, it's a life sentence. It's something that will never go away. You need the insulin because your body isn't producing it and there's no way to bring it back. It's just going to get worse and worse functioning. So that is, as soon as my doctor put me on there and we started testing my A1Cs, they kept getting better and better. So my body approves. So it likes it, and I don't always like it. Okay, the first time I injected insulin, I had to go close myself away and put some nice music on, soothing music, something fun. And then I freaked out a little bit about poking myself. They did teach me at the clinic a little bit how to do it. They had some little testing things to stick the needle in, but it's not like injecting yourself. So yeah, it is a little weird, but now I don't even think about it. I mean, because it's every day that I have to do it. Every once in a while I hit a nerve and I'll be going, ah, ouch, ouch, ouch. And my husband's like, you hit a nerve, didn't you? Like, yep. But this little guy is really good. I keep this, we both work from home, so I keep my Dexcom on the kitchen island so either of us can check it. Because sometimes I get lost in a project and my husband's like, do you know you're at 80? And I'm like, what? Because it usually doesn't beep at me till I'm at 70. That's what I set it to. When I'm at 70, I need to act fast to get 70. So it has been an emotional roller coaster to have any kind of diabetes. Like, I went from, trying to avoid it to deep shame, and probably there was some depression there, to relief at the accurate diagnosis, and now it's just a part of my life. And there's some things that helped me. One thing was connecting with the diabetic clinic and having those people there. Another one is I joined a Facebook group for LADAs, and I also joined the Dexcom group. And what's nice about that is somebody will say, hey, anybody else have this happen? And there was, here, let me show you something. Okay, sorry. There was one time they were all talking about wooden spoons and hitting it when it gets stuck. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened to those people? And then it happened to me. So this is the applicator for the sensors that you put on your skin. And I was going along and I put it in, and then I'm like, it didn't go in. It's stuck. So I can't extract it. So I'm like, I know just what to do. So I went into the kitchen and I grabbed a wooden spoon and I whacked it. And it worked. So just so you know, if it gets stuck, whack it with a wooden spoon. And there's kind of a running joke about make sure it's a wooden spoon. I don't know if something else would help too, but it was kind of funny that those kinds of help that you're kind of absorb in the background in your news feed, and then you can ask people questions, and there's humor. There's a guy who between two lines who has some really, really funny diabetic videos. So I will try to link that below here for you to check it out, because we need to laugh. I mean, we only diabetics get the diabetics lifestyle, because frankly, who wants to get it if you don't have it? I mean, who wants to understand it unless you're a doctor? There, as much as you can tell your family, this is what I have, they really don't understand it if they don't have it. They can sympathize and they can kind of guess in their head what it's like, but you know, that it's constantly on my mind. I'm constantly thinking, am I hungry? Do I need to eat? What's my number? I'm too high now. You know, all those. And I think it's worse. You think about it more when you are fully insulin dependent, because you're thinking, okay, now I'm going to need to count the carbs for the insulin ratio. There's a lot of, how am I feeling? Or I'm really tired right now. Am I dropping in numbers? So you're thinking about it a lot. It takes up a lot of brain space. So there is a lot of learning, but the biggest thing is, yeah, find your support group. If you need that one-on-one or you need the group, get into a group. Don't let your shame, don't let the feelings of shame and other things hold you back, because it'll only make it worse for you. It'll only feed that. And I'm speaking from experience here. I chose to do a fresh start when I moved, because it was a time. We had a fresh start in many ways when we moved to Montana. And it has been good, even though I've been diagnosed with a lot of stuff. Although I guess I'm not a hypochondriac. Or am I? Are you hypochondriac if you actually have all those sicknesses? I don't know. So anyways, that is my story and how I'm now living it out. And I hope that this will encourage you to, if you have this or you think you have it, to not feel alone. And I really encourage you now, when this video is ended, to go and find that support. Even look up a Facebook group or something online. There's a lot of websites that have support too. So whatever way that you like to connect to people, please do that. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you got something out of it. And if you do, please do share this with somebody you think that might need to hear about this. And there is only living through it. And that's just what we do every day. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a joyful day. Goodbye.